I'm going to show you some tricks to help you draw compound leaves. So those are leaves with multiple leaflets. So let's just jump over to the Nature Journaling Thrill Cam here. Here we go. And let's go for first a little bit of definitions. What is a leaf? I think you know already, like everybody knows, I know what a leaf is. Leaf is that thing that is sticking out of the plant like that. Okay, so there's my leaf. So as far as a botanist is concerned, something with this shape may be a leaf, but sometimes something like this, it's connected to other things that that are shaped like this. Sometimes it's not connected right into the stem. You know, sometimes what you're seeing is actually that there are several little leaf-like things, and you're trying to figure out, is this a leaf or am I looking at a leaflet? So the definition is that when the thing actually attaches into a stem, if there is a bud right here, then everything out here is a leaf. So, and in which case this is called a compound leaves, and each one of these is a leaflet. If there is a bud here and a bud here and a bud here, then these are 3 leaves. But if there's just a bud right down here, then this whole business out here is 1 leaf. So you can start taking a look around for leaves and leaflets, and you will see some interesting stuff. So let's work on blocking in some of these compound leaves. And they can be, there's 2 major arrangements that you're going to see. One is central stalk with things coming off of it. That's called a pinnate. Like this is a pin. Here, I'm going to draw this as a pin. There's the pin, right? And this is a pinnately compound leaf. Also, the leaf can be set up like your hand with leaflets coming off of a central point, of a central hub. So if that's the case, it's called here's the palm of my hand. This is a palmately compound leaf. So if I have one central hub and I have leaflets coming off of that, that is then the palmate arrangement, and this is the pinnate arrangement. So we're going to take a look at some strategies for drawing both of these. And here we go. So let's start with some palmately, start with some pinnate compound leaves. When I'm blocking these things in, and again, what I don't do is I don't start just drawing, here's leaflet number 1, here's leaflet number 2, here's leaflet number 3. We'll kind of work my way around, eventually coming back to there. When I do that, very often the whole leaf, the whole arrangement of these leaflets just looks a little bit off. So instead, what I do is I first lightly block in the shape of this compound leaf. So I would say there's a central shaft of the thing here, and I have leaflets that are coming out on both sides, and those are going to get smaller towards the end. So I'm looking at if I drew between each of those leaflets, if I drew a line connecting those, they would kind of make, in this imaginary leaf, or if this is a fern, this frond,
Jack, that light blue is a little bit hard to see on the screen.
So I'm just going to push that a little bit. This actually is not my regular non-photo blue pencil. This is a very thin non-photo blue colored pencil that makes it kind of a bolder mark. I wanted this to be a little bit lighter so that when I'm drawing with the second one, there will be contrast between them. But I do want this to be a little bit lighter. If you can basically see that shape, we're good. And I'm going to try to turn on my lights. When I had my lights on earlier, I was kind of giving some Now, there's some strange kind of artifacts of lighting these.
Yeah, actually, it was better without the lights
Better
on.
without the lighting. Okay, here we go. All right.
And I think it was blurry only because you were moving the paper when you were drawing. So it looks fine now.
Okay, good. All right, now you're saying now I'm going to start drawing in the leaflets, and this is going to help me kind of know how long to make each one of those leaflets. But wait, before you kind of go on to that, what I suggest you do is just putting in some lines showing the general angle that those leaflets are coming off the main branch here. So if my leaflets are coming off straight like this, sort of straight off, that's going to be different than if they are coming out at a forward angle. And so I'm going to roughly say that I'm going to have leaflets that are coming in at angles like this. And that's going to help me when I'm drawing in my leaflets to start to get those at the right tilt. So now I'm ready to start to draw in my leaflets. And what I would be doing is I would look at a few leaflet shapes. And what you'll find is very often there's a change in the general shape of leaflets as you go from this side to this side. So what I would do is I would put in a few kind of anchor leaflets. I'd look at the first one and say, what is your shape? And then down here, somewhere along here, there's going to be another one, and it's going to come up, and it's going to be more parallel sided. It's got a bug bite out of it. And then down here, towards the tip, oh, out here, actually, they're getting all fused. All right, and this last one before they fuse, what's it going to look like? It's going to be this. So I want my leaflet shape to morph from this to a more parallel-sided thing to something back like this, and then I'm going to be doing that around the end. So now I can start to put these guys in, and I'm just looking that they're generally tilting in the right direction. Zoom a little bit. They're generally tilting in the right direction. I want, sometimes if it's clear that the one back here is on top of the whole pile and they kind of goes lower, 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 lower here, then I can just draw them in like shingles on a roof. But if not, I want to have out here, you know, some of these, there, it's going to be on top, and now I'm going to put another one here, and then this one will tuck behind those. All right, so I get a little bit of you know, some are on top, some are below. And then I'm going to throw in a few more to come down to here. And on some of these, I'm going to put in a little suggestion of a mid vein here. And on some of the ones that are further back, I'll put those back in a little bit of shadow. And there are a bunch of parallel things. Then I would turn my paper over, and I'd start working on these ones. I turn my paper around because it's easier for my hand to kind of draw lines out at about this angle. So I've turned my paper to where it's a convenient angle for me to draw straight lines. You'll see that at some angles, your hand goes, yeah, I like drawing parallel things that way. Like, but if you try to kind of turn this way, and then you draw those, you know how your hand gets cramped and it's a weird angle. So you turn your paper so that your hand will still likes the angle that you are drawing those. Out at the tips, you'll find different things. This is sort of fern style. You can also find tips like this where, so here's a tip coming out. There will be another little leaflet out there. And so those are then we'll come down to those. So pay attention to the tip of those leaflets. Is it fusing them together fern style on a frond of a fern? And, you know, or is it doing this sort of a thing? Just pay attention to what you're seeing. One last thing is sometimes a few of these ones that are back here, they will be bigger, and they can have kind of a compound shape to them too. So sometimes what you're seeing is that is the shape for one that's further back. And here, I'm going to have another one here. I'm going to have another one here. See how I'm kind of blocking in general places for these. And then they get just a little bit less loby as you go forward. Then I'm going to come through and put in some of those little vein connectors. I usually draw in my leaflets first and then just get vein. Oh, I'm so good. Oh, look at that. Just get vein, draw that vein in. Probably thinks this song is about it. So that will help you draw fronds and some pinnately compound leaves. Ferns, really complicated shapes to draw, right? Because they're broken into all of these little compound shapes. So, you know, with fronds like those, who needs enemies? Now, let's look at a palmately compound leaf. Actually, before we go on from this, so this is if you're just looking straight down on the frond or on the leaf. But sometimes, if you look at this in cross section, rather than seeing here's my mid vein and I have leaflets coming out like this and I have leaflets coming out like this. Ooh, all right. So sometimes what's going on is they're up at an angle like that. All right. Now, what we're about to do is some next level stuff. So if this answered your question, you're like, okay, I'm cool. I just want to draw these things flat. Great. You can stop right there. This next step is going to be a little bit, can be a little bit confusing. And so I am going to, and maybe what I'll do at some point in the future, got actually a special request for a whole class on curling petals and leaves. And I will do that. And this is not that class, but so if this doesn't make any sense to you, don't worry, we will return to it at some point in the future. So here is my compound leaf, right? And I've got these leaflets that are coming off like this here. I'm going to zoom back a little bit because there's a lot to take in here. And I have other leaflets that are coming back in here. I'm often actually looking at, does this leaflet come down and they hit at the same point. Very often they're a little bit staggered like that. So that's something I do pay attention to as I'm putting these guys in. And sometimes they'll be generally, if they're randomly placed, you'll see some that are and some that aren't. All right. Now, if this is up in a slight V, right? And let's see, how can I, there we are. So you see how this is up in a slight V. If I turn it at an angle here, this side you see big, this side right here, you see as smaller. You see they actually are the same size, but when I tilt it like this, this side just got small, this side is big. So if I have a leaf and it's not just flat like that, but one side is tilted up towards me, I'm going to see that. Here's my center thing. Here is this far side, and here is the side. Here is the other side. All right. I can have on my compound leaf. I can have. Oh, let's put in some of those little guides like these. I got to zoom in again. Bum, bum, bum. Now, this next thing is, this is good. This is an advanced drawing thing. If this feels overwhelming for right now, don't worry about it. We'll circle back to this kind of stuff at another point in the future. But check this out. On this far side, I'm going to have these little characters being full size up here. But on the side that's tilted up towards you, I'm going to make them shorter and more blunt. We'll find out why more blunt in a future workshop. Oops, I want this one. If it's coming more towards me, it's, oh, really short. This might be more clear if I do a more extreme one right here. Boom, big, small. All right. Now for these ones here, they're going to come out at an angle like this. These ones are going to be shorter and tilted up towards me more. So that means I would have leaflet here. And here.
Jack, there's a question about if a leaf is twice pinnately compound. I'm thinking ferns do this too, that you would do this for each leaf and leaflet.
Yeah. So yeah, this is fun. So you can get a compound leaf, where it's not just that the leaf is compound, but every leaflet on it, oh, whoo, fern time, right? Again, with fronds like these, who needs enemies, is oh boy. What would that be over here? Now, at this point, you're saying to yourself, what if I'm drawing a fern And I want to make, and now if I get into the Zen meditation of, yes, I am, you know, worlds within worlds. I am the compound leaflet, and I have all these little parts. Oh, isn't it kind of fun? And you're having fun doing this? Great, right? Go for it, do it, and just bliss out on that. But if you are thinking to yourself, there's just too much going on here, and oh, by the way, these are going to get less pinnately compound as you get towards the tip here, right? So if drawing this in on the whole fern does not sound like your idea of a good time, there is an answer for this for quick field sketching. What you do is, let's say you are, I'm going to back up just a little bit, back up. All right. Let's say I have a fern coming up, and this frond is pointing towards me. Here's another one that's facing away. There's one that's coming out like this. Oh, look, there's a little fiddlehead, right? This frond here, and then there's another one that's kind of coming out like this. So here's, and I don't want to get in here.
Sorry, Jack, we don't see very well. It's very light.
Ah, thank you. See, it takes a village to keep me on track here. I appreciate this. So I'm just going to darken those up a little bit. Let me zoom in. All right. Now,
Fine.
what you can do is you can just, I would put in on these, I would say that, you know, this one, its edge, actually it's gonna have an edge coming off like this. This one that is facing towards me, look at this. Here's this one that's facing towards me. Here's the top edge of that frond. And its other edge is going to be here. Other edge is going to be here. I have on this frond, ooh, a lot just happened there, didn't it? Let's unpack this little diagram here. Here is my central shaft of my fern, going up and down. Here's one side of my fern coming over here down to the tip. And here's the top of my fern going from the edge here down to the center shaft, up to the other side. On my other side, it's going to come up here and down there. So if you think of this, just imagine this as not a fern, just as a leaf that is twisting three-dimensionally towards you. All right. Here's this kind of front edge of the leaf. If this is a fern, though, it's going to have these pinnately compound characters popping off of that.
Sorry again, Jack. Can you move your draw to the left, because it's in the back of our. It's in the back of the miniatures of. We can see it.
Is this better?
Okay, fine.
So if you just spotlight Jack's video and put it on speaker view, those thumbnails won't interfere with his drawing.
Also, if there's that little series of pictures down the side, I will sometimes click, there's at the top of that little series of pictures, there is a there's a box, a double box, the few little rectangles. If you click along those, you can actually reduce the views of all the other people. If these are little sub-compound elements coming off of this, and you're thinking, and each one of those, say it's a bracken fern, is a little sub-compound thing, and you're thinking, I don't want to get in here and draw this a million times, right? And you're thinking, I don't want to draw a fern because I'm already tired of doing this, right? And here's the one on the other side. And then what happens when I find when I start doing this is I just start making these faster and faster. So they start off kind of neat and organized, and then they just get chaotic and messy, and I don't enjoy it anymore. And so what I will do is I'll make a little frond diagram for myself. I will say, you know, this is, they start off big and then they go small. They come out at this angle, just a top view.
Can you adjust your page, please?
Oh, thank you. All right. So I would just think of collecting information diagram style. I would draw in what is the shape that I see at the tip. And then I would pick a few places along the side of this frond. Down here at this point, they are making single bumps, right? At this point back here, they're making multiple bumps. And when they're back here, they're doing that. And then I just put in some other little lines to say that there's about this many of them. And tell the viewer, fill it in for yourself. You see how I've just recorded a ton of information? You might want to get like, what are on these last ones here? Maybe that needs something. The ones where there's something different going on. This little fern diagram can convey a ton of information really fast without having to get in there and noodle in every one. So if I am drawing a, let's say I'm going to kind of go back to this big clump of ferns. I'm now going to make, so this would be my kind of my scientist self making a diagram to record the information. This right here would be my ultra patient self wanting to, you know, bliss out with every little bump on this thing. And right here, I'm going to kind of do fern fast sketch style. All right. So I'm going to start with this element right here. There's this little fern frond here is sticking out right here. So its top edge is like this, and it comes down here, and I'm seeing this side of it to there, right? And so what I might do, and in the background, and I'm going to strengthen this edge here so that it gets to be kind of in front of this. Otherwise, it's visually confusing. Also, these ones back here, I actually haven't done it very well in this. I should have made these come out a little bit more horizontal instead of steep up. And in the background, and then there's this one which we're seeing partially in side view. So I can get a sense of the frondiness, and if I let's see here, do I want to drop watercolor in on this? But let's not do that for now. So depending on what my goal is, what I'm saying is I would kind of handle that little sketch in different ways. Here I'm getting a sense of like, oh, these things are kind of flopping out, and look, there's a fiddlehead. In this, I'm making a diagram to help myself remember and my viewer see what is going on with that. Here, if I'm really kind of blissing out and enjoying the process of this, then I can get in there and noodle in every one. And it's just going to depend on where my head is at and what my goal is for that drawing.
There's a question about the gaps where you fill in the middle veins between the two sides.
Oh, yeah. So what I tend to do, and we'll kind of jump back to this one right here, is zoom in. All right, so this one here doesn't have its veins in yet. So what I'll do is I'll draw my leaflets in first, and then come along and connect those veins. Trying to get them to be, and that ends up looking a lot better than if I have this line drawn first as a big heavy line, and then I have things sticking out from that. That ends up looking really cartoony. Because there are going to be places where, like this leaflet is, this leaflet kind of gets out of place. And this one next to it too. And so you won't see that vein through there. Maybe I'll see it on the far side, but not on this one. And so I have, so I tend to draw my leaflets in first. And look here, this leaflet dropped off. And then I put the sides of the vein in. And I try to keep those sides roughly parallel to each other, and not have it go skinny, 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 and accidentally have a part that's too thick. Like in here, if I draw this thicker in here, see how that really jumps out? You're kind of getting thin, thin, thin here, like, whoa, thick. No, I don't want that. So I'll keep that. Try not to have them accidentally chunk up further down the pike there. So that's all pinnately compound leaves. Oh, actually, you know what? I was debating whether or not to sort of show something with watercolor, and I think it is worth it. So I'm going to put some, and the way I'm going to go about this is not the way that you think. I am going to put some green paint, slapdash, all over that. then I'm going to take some dark green here. And what I do is come in here. Oh, I didn't dry it very well. See, it's starting to spread. I actually need to dry it better. That feels better. And if I come along here and fill in those negative spaces. Oh, see, then it starts to look really cool. And I can have this shape in the back be another kind of ferny shape kind of sticking out there. And there's some distant ferny business with this light value one in front, and it really pops it out. Oh. Fun. So what I want to do now is show a little bit about a compound leaf. I mean, not a compound leaf, but a palmately compound leaf, and some things to track as you are drawing one of those. I'm going to back up. There's that bit of ferniness again. All right. When you're drawing a palmately compound leaf, what I suggest you do is start with the overall shape of the palm of that leaf. So is it a big, broad thing? Or is it more of a narrow thing? I'm going to have this be a big, broad thing in here. This is going to be a buckeye, right? Now, the buckeye, there's a point where all of the leaflets attach, and it's not down at the base. It's going to be inside the circle somewhere. So where's the point where everybody attaches? And then I look at the angles of these leaflets that are coming out. Maybe I want this to be here. This is going to be the overall shape of the leaflet. So roughly, and then watch this, I'm going to put in some ovals just as little placeholders for leaflets. Roughly, there's a leaflet in here, there's a leaflet in here, there's a leaflet in here, there's a leaflet here, and there's, let's put in more. So I like to put in these ovals for the general shape of the leaflet. And I also want to make sure I'm counting leaflets. So let's say if I have something where there's only 5, I'm going to say I've got 1, 2, 3, another 4. Here's a 5th coming out here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now this next step is actually a really, 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 really big deal. And I wasn't doing this for a long time, and when I started doing it, it made a big change in what I was seeing, in what I was drawing. And that is that before I now get in here and start to draw in the edges of these leaflets. But no. Just wait a little bit, because before you do that, you see this negative shape here between this? Check to make sure that this negative shape is in the right place. Does it start down here? Does it start up here? All right, because if it's like this, if it's up here, all right, then that actually means that I need to make these into broader things. So check out your negative shapes between these. This one right here at the base, the negative, what is the shape of the air between where this leaflet comes in and this one goes? And when you're in this blue pencil phase, you can move things around really, really easily. And once you like it, then you're in a place to start to go, all right, from this central point here, I'm going to come up here, and I'm putting some serrations in these. I know that that's not in the Buckeye, but I'm actually now kind of making up my own little leaf. It's hard to draw serrations on a leaf. If you're trying to draw a leaf and you just start going like this, you're going to end up with something that looks like that for your serrated toothed leaf. But if you already have the shape worked out and you want to think of those points kind of trending off this way, then it is a lot easier to do. So coming up here, getting into some of my jaggy edges, and what kind of negative shapes are you getting down in here? I don't like that side. I like that side better. There we go. Maybe that's a raspberry. Now I'm going to draw in some veins, not drawing the line all the way to the tip, just like in bird beaks. It's going to look better if you kind of strengthen it here and let it fade there. If there are secondary veins, I'll suggest a few of them, noticing the angle that they come out. But it actually is probably going to look better if you don't drop those in on every leaf. Let the viewer, let the person who's looking at your page do a little bit of the work of, leave something for them to kind of be like, oh, there are veins on, yeah, there are veins on those. Because if you get in there and you draw in every one, then there's the same level of detail over the whole drawing. Then, it actually is not as visually interesting. Cover up that line that I didn't like with just a little bit of hatching. All right. So that can help me draw a compound leaf. those negative spaces, the negative shapes in here, in here, in here, really are going to improve your leaflet. And also, when you're blocking them in as you're placing leaflets, think of them as a little oval. Oh, one other thing, really cool. Very often, let's see if I can do that with this leaflet here. Very often what you'll see is that, especially on these bottom ones, the distance over here will often not be the same as the distance over here. So we have a tendency to put the vein right through the middle, but especially on these ones down here, look to see if that is what you're actually seeing. Expect that often one side will be a different width than the other. And you'll see that in a bunch of plants. We're going to do one more thing with this compound leaf. What if you're not looking straight down on it? What if instead this circle is an oval?
Jack, would you slide your drawing up a little bit?
Yes, thank you. And let's zoom in on it too. Check those negative shapes. Negative shapes are really, really weird, especially when you start to get into things that sort of foreshorten angles. Like up here, I expect this negative shape to be rather similar to this one. But up here, they're not. The one in the middle is going to be skinnier. Did I lose a leaflet? Yeah, I did. Look at that. I wanted to have another leaflet in here. Any stem coming in wants to point to behind the scenes to be able to get to where that hub is going to be. If there was a whole tree and it was covered with this sort of stuff, you would imagine that you would go nuts drawing them all in. What I might recommend you do, though, is to give yourself a couple of ones that you block in. And all right, so there's a couple that we've blocked in. And then here's the edge of the tree. And now, through the magic of watercolor, Speed dry. Hold it down. We're going to take some dark value green. Let's see if I can get this set up so that all this is in this. I think I have to zoom out. Okay. What color is that? Oh, it's a nice little dark thing. I can be careful around these edges here.
So Jack, just so you know, it's already 1 o'clock.
Ah, and there goes that time again. I don't think we're going to be dealing with another topic in this workshop. We'll be bringing this to a close in just a moment. Really see how with that, the Pentel fine point water brush, you can be very precise and specific. You see how you kind of, by putting some dark adjacent to these light green leaves and just sort of popping their outline, you do get a sense that you are kind of up there in the trees and you have a bunch of foliage. You drew 2 of those and the rest of them just popped out. The viewer is imagining that they see all the rest of those little leaves because they see these 2 that you have carefully worked out. And there we are. You give your water brush a squeeze. Whenever you're putting your water brushes away, be careful with them. You got to take care of your water brushes. Best way to do that is make sure it's clean when you go to put it away. I roll it on the back of my hand so that it makes a fine point again. Take the cap on, and I'm careful not to bend any of the fibers of the brush tip out as I put the cap on. So I put the cap on carefully and press down until you hear a sharp click, right? And then you're good to go. That is compound leaves. Oh, here's my, where is that? Ah, there it is. You know, COVID makes you a little bit crazy, doesn't it?